Welcome everybody to the session on how Salesforce.com uses analytics to drive more sales. If this is not the session you were expecting, there's still time to leave. Won't take it personally, though Marco might. He's from Estonia, and they take things very seriously there. My name is Leo Tenenblatt, and I'm one of the product managers for Salesforce.com Analytics. I've been with the company close to 4 years now, and actually most of that time in a different group, the Sales Strategy and Operations group, where I had the privilege of working with Marco and helping shape how the sales organization, in particular the sales executives and sales managers, look at the data and analyze it to find bottlenecks and enforce sales processes and overall just drive productivity and more sales. Earlier this year, I took the opportunity to move over to the products team to help build out our product offering in the analytics space. And meanwhile, Marco stayed in the team and continued to evolve the reporting and dashboards and analytics capabilities. So he's going to be doing most of the talking today. And I'll maybe chime in on some of the historical color of some of the things that we did together, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the of what the future of Salesforce.com Analytics is and how it might impact this. If you really want to hear me talk, or you're interested in seeing more about the roadmap of the analytics products, I invite you to come to the session right after this one, where Tom Tobin and I are going to talk. We're going to share exactly the roadmap for analytics up in Esplanade 306. So after that shameless plug, I'll pass it over to Marco here so he can introduce himself and get things going.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. I know it's Friday after 2 full days of Dreamforce, and I see a full room. I would like to take a quick poll and see how many of you are sales managers. Maybe 1/3. And sales ops. So most of the people. I wonder what the rest of the people are doing. But so let's jump in. Safe harbor. I'm sure by now you have seen it already a million times. So don't make any purchasing decisions on a product or stock based on this session. So Leo already introduced himself. He used to be my manager when he was in a sales strategy role. My background is I was a financial analyst a long time ago, and I was in IT for like 8 years. I've been at Salesforce actually 4 years already. And in my current role, Leo actually saved me from IT, and I've been in my current role for 2 years. So quick org structure. I work in a sales strategy group, and what we do is we are trusted partners for our execs. We as people who work on a long-term strategy projects like coverage, optimizing, hiring, territory alignments, and we also work on tactical projects or tactical issues like when Frank or Mark have questions on dashboards or something is wrong, or we do monthly packages, for example. So let's jump in. So today's story is really about the importance of analytics at Salesforce. And we kind of have to take a step back and talk about last year and actually last 15 months since market crashed. On a lot of our reports, we talk about this. We have this back line which talks about Lehman Brothers failure, because our analytics have definitely changed, and execs and managers actually come to our group with different questions since then. So we have this tagline which is called "The old math doesn't work anymore." We have a great product. And it was, for salespeople, it was pretty easy to sell. We would get a lot of inbound calls, and it's easy. However, for the last year, it has kind of changed. Now, sales managers and AEs have to play a different role. They have to go out there, and they have to generate pipe. They have to change their behavior, and we're actually going to go into a few things like pushing, where it's really a behavior sales manager have to change. So the economist calls this Great Recession, and in our opinion, it actually really means more and deep analytics. We'll talk about the role of sales executives, what they are looking for, and also sales managers on what kind of pressures they deal with right now. And probably those pressures won't go away anytime soon. And then we'll have a Q&A. So there are a lot of metrics sales managers and executives look at. So, for example, bookings, which we call ACV, average contract value versus plan. We have forecasting, big deals, competition, investments, and they really look at those things in a different frequency. Like, for example, investments, they don't look at daily or weekly. This is something you look at quarterly or biannually to evaluate where you're investing your money. Managers also look at different, for them, territory coverage or account plans are very important, year-over-year growth. And there are two other groups I don't have on this list are AEs, whose reporting is a lot simpler. They are looking at what opportunities and accounts they have. And then there are also analysts. And this is kind of people like us or financial analysts who we do have on-premise tool. We are doing a lot of Excel work. But all our executive and management reporting is really 99% is driven from the app. Mark always pushes everything has to come from the app. And when we say the app, it's really our org we use internally. So unfortunately, we don't have time to jump into all the metrics. So this is the main things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about bookings, forecasting, big deals, competition. So we'll show 3 dashboards for execs. And then I think 5 or 6 dashboards and reports we use for managers.
A lot of these key metrics, I think, became more important, right, since the Great Recession, as you call it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, like, for example, territory coverage. We have to make sure that we touch all the accounts. We have to make sure that all our customers are happy, and that's why we have this red accounts dashboard. So what do execs really look at? What's important to them? It's visibility, making sure that they have access to all the opportunities, that they know exactly where they are at any point of the month. Accuracy, you know that if you miss the number, then all you execs are very upset. And also, if they miss the number to Wall Street, your stock will take a huge hit. And everybody has to make sure that they execute. So here is our dashboard, which is used by all our execs. And also, we have copies of this dashboard pushed out to all the managers by territory and classification and segment. So what it shows is really dials where we are at any point of the time. We have trend lines, which is year over year is extremely important. We are showing forecast, which is really what managers have committed to. And then we are showing it's from a top down. And then next thing is an open pipe, for example, which shows what is from a bottoms up. So eventually those things have to match to have a successful month. And then we also have all the big deals. So just to show how important this dashboard is, it's last 2 weeks of every month. Every day, Mark and Frank go in here and refresh it. On the last day of the month, I think it's hourly. And why I know this is because if anything is wrong, if it has not updated correctly, I get emails. So they are really hands-on.
And just to say a couple more points here, the components in the middle there where you see the trends, those are actually, for us, very important in trying to predict what our bookings are going to be. So they have a forecasting element to it. Exactly because, particularly in corporate sales, it's a very volume-based business, so it's very, very predictable. It's almost like a little machine. And so if we plot the trend for this month versus the same month last year or the previous month, and we can see that so far this month we're behind the trend or above the trend, that is a very, very good predictor of what's likely to happen towards the end of the month. So it's very good in that sense for the sales execs.
So next, from here, yeah, we know where the forecast is and where we stand, but it's very important to have big deals. And actually, Mark on Wednesday was talking about how we don't discriminate. We have big accounts like Japan Post, and then we have all the little mom and pop stores. And they all live in a happy, same multi-tenant environment. But to have a successful month, we do have to have big deals, and it's very important. So this dashboard is number 2 on the execs list, and what it shows is really big deals this month, what stages they are they closing, are they losing, which forecast, like commit or what forecast categories they are, next month's out and 2 months out. So it really gives you a snapshot on what's closing this month and what's coming. Are we going to hit the quota or not?
Yeah, and just going back to the point that Marco made from the previous slide, where we showed the forecasts that managers are submitting, as well as the bottom-up, what's rolling up from the opportunities. Looking at that gap is critical for sales managers, and they want to understand how they're going to make that gap. And the big deals are a big component of this. So they drive into that big deal dashboard that Marco was just showing to find out which are the deals that are going to close this month or may not close, and which are deals that are supposed to close next month or 2 months out that we can actually pull in. And we have things like some of these categories are like deals that we're behind the competition on. It really drives the actionability to the execs to find out which deals they need to get involved in today to make sure that they're going to close the next month or 2 months out. Not just a tactical thing, but give them a little bit of visibility into the strategic component of closing a couple more months out.
So next, I would like to show you competition dashboard. It's how, for execs, it's very important to defend and gain market share, and especially at this difficult times. So we have this dashboard built to show who are our primary competitors, how much are we losing, how often we are losing, because maybe we are losing only a few big deals, but at the same time we could be losing a lot of little customers to some other competitor who is coming from bottom up. And also close rates by each competitor. And how can execs make this one more how can they change the execution? For example, they can see that if we are losing to competitor A, we actually have war rooms in place. We have email alerts. We can put right people on big deals. We can put some executive sponsors, maybe Mark or Frank themselves, going to those deals. And also we have a playbook. We have a competitive playbook which our competitive team can go in and change. And really depending on each deal, they can go in and make a difference.
Yeah, it's very much used by the product teams, the competitive team, of course, and marketing to find out who's coming up more in deals and do we need to do something to that regard. Another thing that the announcement that Mark gave about chatter actually got me thinking about how this might affect how we look at competition in getting more of a leading indicator. If people are talking more about certain competitors, maybe we can do something in advance of deals closing. Because this is already after the fact, right? It's looking backwards, but maybe chatter will help look forwards.
And we at Salesforce, we are very nimble when it comes to this. We really change our playbooks right away. We can see that, okay, we lost 2 big deals to competitor X. We are going to change our behavior. So, and last, I promised to show some tips and tricks. So this year-over-year analysis were really important. So a lot of our managers wanted to see this chart in all of the reports. So what I was having difficulty was, yeah, we built this cool report, but Salesforce has kind of a limitation where if you want to see year-over-year only current months and 12 months ago, you have to bring all the months back. And it's kind of annoying because I don't really care. Our business is really driven by seasonality. So Leo and I created this neat little trick. We call it a months out, which is a custom variable. Actually, it's a variable and a custom object, which has this code right here. And all you do is in your reports, you can put 0 for the current months and minus 12 for a year ago. And it's a very, very easy addition to your reports.
So we applied it to close date here, but you can do it against any date field in Salesforce.
Yeah, you can do it on created date. You can do lead conversion rate. So it's very useful.
And just to highlight the benefit here, if you guys want to do something like this, is that at the end of the month, if you want to look at one month versus the other, which is what we were trying to do, we had to hard code the months and say December 2009 and December 2008. But as soon as you go into January 2010, all those are broken. You have to go back and update them. With this, things are updated automatically, and so Marco could spend a couple more days at home relaxing rather than jumping into the dashboard.
I'm not really relaxing. But so we talked about what sales execs are looking at a snapshot. It's really more of a macro level, and that behaviors as they see, they have to push down to sales managers. So when I was talking about economic change, it's really analytics have changed more on a sales manager side here at Salesforce. Sales execs at Salesforce have always really been metrics driven. Frank is extremely metrics driven. But we always had some rogue managers who wouldn't really care about analytics. They would be like, I don't care, I know how to sell. But for the last year, I had a lot of sales managers actually come to me and say, it's like, hey, how do I get this report or a dashboard? It looks really useful. And that's how behavior has changed, and analytics are a lot more important for us. So what do sales managers look at? They need performance, predictability, and efficiency. They need to do more with less. They have to know that there will be no surprises. Actually, one of the sales managers said that only surprises he wants are on his birthday and on Christmas. On month's end, he doesn't want to see any surprises. So it really has to be a well-oiled machine. So you have to have a run rate, and then you have to have big deals, and you have to know when are those big deals coming in.
I just add a couple words there. I think a lot of this has to do with adoption of the tool, and that's way back at the beginning where Marco was talking about how Mark and Frank really enforce the use of the tool, because that's going to drive all the analytics, and you really see them enforce the adoption of our app.
Yeah, actually, there were two good sessions on Wednesday by Eli on productivity and Robert Zimmerman on pipeline management. And these two sessions really talked about how to adopt the tool and how to make sure that all the users are using it. And we at Salesforce have done a really good job, and that's why Mark and Frank can go in anytime and see true numbers.
I think some of the sessions are being recorded, so maybe if you guys are interested and you didn't get a chance to see it, maybe you can check it out on the Dreamforce website.
So what's important for a sales manager? First thing is you have to feed the machine. You have to make sure that you have enough pipeline. You have to look at pipeline created at the macro level. Then you have to look at, in our case, we have sub-region, but you look at the market segment or by your own AVP, RVP area. And we also are big believers of leaderboards. We have leaderboards by everything. We have by activities and calls and how much bookings account executives have brought in. So this dashboard really talks about macro level. We created that much pipe. A little bit lower, okay, is there an issue somewhere in sub-region, and who is performing and who is not?
Yeah, again, particularly in the corporate sales world for us, the Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame kind of thing plays really, really well. The friendly competition is a big driver of performance.
And also, it's very important to look at, for you it's probably something different, but for us it's new business add-on and upgrade. It all has to have a good balance. You have to bring in new business because you know that these people will have some add-ons and upgrades later on. So you have to have a correct balance.
So typically, I think we look at a 50-50 mix of add-on and new business?
Yeah, for us it's 50-50. Mm-hmm. Next. We created pipe, but what happens next? We have to make sure that deals are moving towards closing, that we, AEs, account executives, are first. Making calls, having meetings, making sure that All the deals are in the right forecast categories that they are closing, and also that we are executing correctly. That here we are showing ACV against quota, that every manager has to know where do we stand at any point of time. That are they going to a club, which we call end of the year, what is that?
A peak performance club?
Big performance club. So this is a very high level dashboards for them to show how they're doing. Anything to add?
Yeah, just on the activity side, again, both in corporate and field, there's all sorts of playbooks about how many touches it usually takes of a certain kind to actually get the deal moving forward. And so the dashboards kind of mimic that usually, where you have meetings in person or calls and so on and so forth, so that the managers can actually track that their sales reps are doing the activities of the certain kind and moving things and abiding by the process, or basically enforcing the process that they think is the successful one.
Actually, that's exactly what next dashboard is showing. So now we were talking about more of a macro level, but this one shows who is not doing their work. For example, we are big believers that all the opportunities have to be touched. All the opportunities have to have next steps, because that shows executives can go in at any time and see, okay, this opportunity had our meeting, and next step is have a close date or something like that. So we monitor very actively what our sales reps doing. And in this case, if the opportunity age is over certain days, like in our case, it's 180, that's a big red flag. Or there is an opportunity over 50,000 without executive sponsor. That's not really good, because we should be sending some executive in to have a discussion, maybe have some kind of a relationship with the executive and that customer side. So another thing which this economy kind of brought along is the problem of pushing. And probably if you're on the sales side or sales ops side, it's everybody has the same issue. Every opportunity, the three main drivers on opportunity is close date, when it's going to be closed, stage, how far along in a sales cycle it is, and amount. So in Salesforce, it's kind of difficult to figure out when those things are changing. So we created a report on opportunity history. I think that feature which comes with all the SFA product. And what it shows is a snapshot of all the opportunities which were pushed, for example. And it shows, in this case, I have blurred out, but it shows area, and it shows amount, how much the amount was an opportunity, and where it was pushed. So especially in last Q4, Q1, when the economy kind of slowed down, everybody started pushing deals out. And it was, or execs, they had no visibility. So we created this report, and wrong side. And going into the more detail, I would like to highlight, for example, this deal right here. This deal was supposed to close. Original close date is 11/21, but it closed into December, and the amount changed from 45,000 to 24. That's like two double negatives. It's like, that's really bad. In a lot of cases, they even downgrade the opportunity stage. So this report was actually super useful for all the sales managers for their forecast calls, to make sure that they really have a visibility to what's going on. And there is no mysteries of suddenly they had $1 million in pipe and it disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. It helps answer that question of where did my pipeline go? Right at the beginning of the month, I thought it was okay. I thought I had enough pipeline, and then it disappeared towards the end of the month. And this is exactly what happened to it. Did it push out to certain months further out, and then I can track and make sure it's going to close? Did the amounts drop, or maybe amounts actually went up? Because sometimes on the surface, you'll look at things and one deal going up and another one going down kind of balances each other, and you think nothing's changed. But once you go down into the row-level detail, you'll find out that some guy pushed a deal and some other person accelerated another deal, and you can manage that effectively.
So on top of that, sometimes, not sometimes, quite often, deals push many times. And there are, usually every organization has the same account executives who push deals over and over and over. So what we did, we created this nifty little thing which is called push counter. So we created workflow and then also a custom field which captures every time AE pushes a deal. And sales managers love this. Sales AEs hate it because sales managers can very easily go in and see exactly, okay, you have pushed this already 4 times. That's a really bad behavior, and it needs to be changed.
I've heard that I think some of our SEs have been demoing this little trick in some of their deals, and the sales managers, the prospects, actually love it and starting to institute it in their own organizations. It's kind of funny to see this go on. And I think, Marco, you were saying yesterday that now, reps kind of adapt to the situation, and so now they've learned that there's this push counter. They kind of know how it behaves, and so they park deals in the future and then accelerate them. And so now we might have to institute a pull counter or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's actually, that just shows how dynamic our environment is. So a few managers have come to me and asked, can I have a report to show that pull deals? So what they do is they are parking everything a few months out, and last 2 days of the month, they just start pulling them in. So it might be becoming a pull counter too. So next, I would like to show you how budgets have really had an impact in last year on our investment decisions. So we have this concept of 4 horses, which is marketing, alliances, AEs, so the account executives, and EBRs. These are all the horses who create pipeline. So usually, actually, for us too, it used to be that everybody had their own way to measure who created and how much pipeline. So Leo and I actually came back with ideas that, okay, we should have one definition for entire company and put that definition into our application. So we created this field called opportunity source, and what it does, it pulls data from leads and opportunities and stamps original pipeline source on them. And the reason why we had to do this because opportunity can be created from a lead, or it can be created directly into the opportunity. So lead type, for example, it does say, yeah, it came from lead, or lead source, sorry. But it doesn't really identify at the end of the sales cycle what it truly came through. So this is a really good way to show all the execs and sales managers. It's like, where's the pipeline sources coming from? And what is the close rate as the highest? What is the age, for example? In this case, from EBRs, age is the longest, and close rate is the lowest. So should we invest some money in here or not?
Yeah, this is interesting because I was just talking to a customer yesterday where they were reflecting exactly this issue. They said, Salesforce Analytics is great because it sort of democratizes the analytics. Anybody can do their analysis, but it's bad because it allows each individual department to do their own analysis on the same thing and get different answers. And so tied to this, and this is, I think, what's important in this story, is that we had a process to go with the metric. In other words, we got what we called together a pipeline council with representatives from each of the pipeline sources and sat down through various meetings to agree on what the definition would be for a pipeline source. Because marketing would say, no, this lead doesn't count because X, Y, Z, but sales would say, no, it should count, and then the pipeline is no good, et cetera, et cetera. So we actually spend several cycles to try to figure out how to bucket the pipeline into these 4 sources. So it's only one of the 4. and then drive accountability and all sorts of other investment decisions based on the ROI on the pipeline results, really.
Yeah, and we also push this field out on all the opportunity, so everybody has a visibility. So sales managers or AEs can go in and see, all right, where is my pipe coming from? And then they can come back to us and say, you know what, I'm not getting any marketing pipe. Can we change that?
Yeah, and all the analysis that we do in pipeline, for example, sales cycles, we know what kind of sources of pipeline drive deals that are of shorter cycles. And so when we're in a bind and we need to make some kind of quick decisions to make up a gap for a month or a quarter, we know where to invest the money, which pipeline sources we need to invest the money to make that happen. Or if we want money, or we want to do more bookings a couple more months out, or of a particular type of deal, we know we can identify based on the pipeline source where to put the money there.
So we talked about pipe gen, we talked about maturing deals and how to work with reduced budget. Next is really a territory coverage. We got the accounts, but we have to make sure that all of those accounts are touched, that AEs are really calling, and also they are creating opportunities. And if they are not, then we should do something about it. Maybe we'll give those accounts to somebody else. So we created this report called Territory Coverage. So what it shows is white space or green fields. There are many different names. It's accounts that have been created that don't have any activities on it, don't have any opportunities, but have, for example, large number of employees on that account. So here is an example. We have an account that has 43,000 employees, and it doesn't have any activities or opportunities attached to it. So this is a great example of saying, hey, if I was a sales manager, I would call AE and say, what's going on? You're either going to call this, or I'm giving this account to somebody else.
Yeah, and this helps stop a little bit of the whining as well that we hear from sales managers. If you've been in sales ops, you know what happens, right? They complain that they don't have enough pipeline, or the territory's not big enough, and this allows us to say, okay, let's take a look at your accounts and let's see what you're doing with them. And in a growing organization like Salesforce, that's critical because we keep adding reps and we have to give them territory. And this allows us to very clearly see which accounts we should pull out of a given rep or even a given territory and give it to someone else, which has potentially better chances of closing that deal. So the visibility here is very critical.
And finally, at the end of the day, it's very important to keep customer happy. We go through all this work to close a deal and bring you in, but we have to make sure that we'll be here for a long term because our model is a subscription model. It's not that we are getting money up front. We have to make sure that you'll be there for many years. So we have this custom object which tags customers if they are in trouble or not, if they are not planning to renew. And this is done by CSMs and renewal managers. So they go in and constantly update accounts. And sales managers can go in, and for each of the territories, they can see, okay, I have X number of accounts, but that many are not really happy and they could be leaving. And what that affects is not just customers leaving, but my future upgrades, my future add-ons. And what it does, it gives them an overview of why they're not leaving. Maybe they're not getting enough attention. Maybe they've been calling and trying to implement something and we have never resolved the issues. So we also capture the reasons, how long they have been on a red account list, and also accounts that we might be losing to competition.
Yeah, and just to tie it back to the sales aspect again, a customer that's happy is one that's more likely, of course, to buy other products. If they're just dropping off, of course, that revenue is lost and future revenue is potentially lost. And so this allows us to see what regions are having issues with supporting customers. and so to drive a little bit more of effort there as well. Another thing that has come from the difficult economic times is that everybody's budgets are being pinched. And so whereas before they would say, yeah, I have 100 licenses, I'm not using all of them, but I might keep all of them because I might hire a couple more people. Now they're going back and saying, now I want to renew just 98 of my 100 licenses. And so this gives us the visibility to know exactly what we're losing and how we can go back and maybe say, well, maybe let's give you something else in return that might be more beneficial for you and still keep that customer, and in fact maybe potentially get them more successful by using some other of our products that make more sense for them at the time.
And also our best marketing machine are referrals. So every customer we have lost, that means it's a referral we have lost. Excuse me?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
a multiplier effect.
Yep.
So that's kind of ends our slides. So key takeaways is really execs and sales managers have to behave differently, and they have to enforce different behavior. And also, from our experience, it's very dynamic. As our group, sales ops or sales strategy group, you have to be constantly in touch with what's changing, so you can change your own either reporting structure or reporting needs to answer all the questions.
So I guess that ends the session. Thank you for attending, and now if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them. Yeah.
Yes. Actually, it's done automatically whenever a salesperson closes a deal. It gets updated, and then also our ordering system is tied to this. So sales ops make sure that it really is closed and there is a quote created. But to answer your question, I did have a tab which said bookings versus plan. That plan has to be manually updated. Yes. Go ahead. Okay, yeah. Some of those already have, like the formulas, but I'll be happy to add, like, a pipeline source.
Can you explain a little technically how you make a push report? I don't kind of imagine where you got the historical values from.
Push report from, are you talking about push counter or the push report?
The report that grows the
Okay. So we have opportunity, and we also have created opportunity history object, so it's every time opportunity is changed, there are like key values like amount, stage, or date. It creates a row in that object. It's a standard object, but usually when you're implementing, then it's not turned on, so you have to do it. Yeah, it's reportable. The only problem is that every time there is a change, it creates a row. So if you change it 10 times, it creates a row. So you have to make sure that it only picks up the latest change.
I think the name of the report type is Opportunity History Report.
Yes.
And you have to be pretty smart about the filters so that you get exactly what you want. But there's some interesting things that come out of this.
Here. We do have a team objects, for example, SEs who are part of this opportunity. We have a custom object called a deal, deals object. So we put all the SC names and what are the splits on that object.
But in terms of account ownership, there's only one account owner.
Yeah, it's always one-to-one. But later on, so the way we actually have created, if there are two salespeople, then we have to have two opportunities which are split.
It's sort of driven from the structure of a Salesforce. We don't have overlays, and so we don't run into those scenarios very often. But I know some other organizations do. Yeah.
Right here.
The number of months out field, you calculated that on a fiscal date, fiscal calendar. So the number of fiscal months out instead of the number of active calendar.
I'm sure you can. We didn't really need it because we are really looking months by months. But I'm sure you can. It's just maybe you can store somewhere in some lookup table the starting date for your fiscal year, and it would calculate from there. I have to think about it.
The fiscal logic would not be built in. You would have to put it in the formula, but I can probably think of some ways to do it.
Yeah.
Creative ways.
Yeah, we didn't really have to deal with that. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of these reports are driven by AD compliance with actually put the data in. How do you make sure that your ADs are actually doing what they're supposed to do and all the data in?
There's an internal joke that, there's a stick and a carrot, and we beat them with a carrot. Part of it has a lot to do with the system is sort of ingrained with the processes, so you don't get paid on it unless it's in the system. And I think a lot of the deal reviews and things that are driven from Mark and Frank, from the executives, help enforce that. They run all their forecast calls in the app. Everything is driven by the app. So if it's not there, you've done something wrong. The accountability is direct. You can't blame the system. You can't blame, my dog ate my spreadsheet. That kind of stuff just won't work. So that's, I think, is sort of a cultural thing that helps the adoption of the tool.
And we also have a productivity team who trains the users, who has leaderboards of if you have certain opportunity which was, for example, over a certain amount and it was created closed in same day. That's a red flag. For example, we had a big deal which closed in 20 days, which is not really possible because we all know that sales cycle is a lot longer. So it's kind of, we use shame a lot too. And it works. Yes?
I really like the way you guys break down your opportunity stages, and was wondering if that's Salesforce proprietary for the organizing stages, or if that's based off of some best practice out there in sales management.
I think it's a combination of both. And Dan Deegan and Robert Zimmerman in their presentation actually talk a lot about that. They have all the stages and how they map to forecast categories. I think it just has been, we had different sales managers from different teams who came together, and it's kind of evolving too, because I can see we had some opportunity stages in the past which are totally different. So I think it's an evolving methodology we're using.
If you were asking because you're interested in maybe replicating it, I don't think that Salesforce would have a problem with that, but we can check.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, if you can download that pipeline management presentation, I think they have a lot of detail behind it.
And there's actually a whole set of definitions, a very, very specific set of definitions that go along with the stages that we train the reps on. Say, if you haven't done this, you can't call it this stage. And again, we try to enforce that through the deal reviews and management overviews.
Yes. Yes, it is. So we created, it's very easy. It's a workflow we created, and then also a custom field on opportunity.
It basically just looks at the close date. If the new close date is more than 30 days out from the previous close date, we update a certain field and say incremented by 1. And so we keep counting the times it was pushed.
Yes. Yeah.
These dashboards are great. With our sales team and sales manager, we definitely want to look at the dashboard. It's snapshot and it's easy. One of the problems, and I don't think that tricks for us, is that the whole running users. Everything you're doing around, so I'm the salesperson, I want to see my accounts, or I'm on the team, I want to see my accounts, I'm not the owner. Anything around building these dashboards for the different type of users that you have.
So that's a question for me, and actually I invite you to come to the roadmap session right after this one, where we are going to talk about runners running user dashboards, and that's exactly what it is you set one dashboard, and everybody going in sees their view of the data, unlike the dashboards today where you set a specific running user and everybody has that same view. So that's coming very soon, actually. Right there, back.
On the territory coverage activities, what are you tracking and how do you decide which activities matter?
It's usually our sales managers are looking at calls and meetings. These are kind of like two key drivers. So on this opportunity, I just did a outer join from account to activity and opportunity, and just we selected certain things. But again, sales managers can take that report and just select fields which matter to them.
So just to clarify a little bit, if you're not familiar with custom report types, that's what he's talking about. So it's an accounts with or without opportunities, with or without activities. And so you can very clearly see if an account has not had any activity on there, you'll actually see those as well.
So yeah, it's a really easy change your admin can do. And that applies to all objects. You can do a custom report type and do with or without.
So
Or like accounts without contacts.
Over there in the back?
Yeah. Yes.
So you can do some of that with analytic snapshots today, right? And then you can set it up all the way to daily if you'd like. Is that something you're familiar with, or what's that? This one is from Salesforce, yeah.
So it's yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's what I do for that. We get a weekly view instead of a monthly view. The thing that I wish I could do with that opportunity field history report, though, and I can't make the next session, sorry, is you can't in select criteria you can't say only if old value is X or new value is X. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
You get every change, whether certain ones are maybe irrelevant.
Yeah, that is something that's on our roadmap, and we're going to get to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So, with respect to territory alignment, sensitive tools for my territory, is there a way to track the current sensitive, prior sensitive,
Talking about track? Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah.
You just have to turn the object tracking on, because in this case it's either account, or in our case it's like account family or territory alignment object, and then you can see what it was before and what is now.
Yeah, I think the name of the feature is field history tracking,
Yes.
which is what you can turn on, and you can specify which fields you want to track. Any other questions? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thanks again for attending. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you.